we're going to give the family an opportunity to share. Natalie, then Nathan, Kim, and followed by Donna. So give them space, give them the honor of sharing with you about a great woman. Natalie.
So, as most of you all know, I am Reverend Grace Vaters' daughter, or granddaughter Natalie. I want to thank you all for coming today to celebrate the life of my Nan. Your attendance here speaks volume about the impact that this admirable woman had on all of us, even for the people watching live via social media. First, I would like to start off by saying who my Nan was as a person. She was a woman of integrity, generosity, loyalty, patience, persistence, determination, and of course her continuous never-failing faith in God. Never once did I see her think about herself. She always looked out for the needs of others. She was so grateful. In 2013 and 2016, I took both my grandparents on a trip to Newfoundland. This was the best thing I could have ever done. To see their faces as they went back home to Newfoundland was something I will never forget. My Nan loved to be around family and friends, and of course, the food as well, and her little jokes about Pop going into and checking out cemeteries. Another fun memory was her teaching me to play the piano. I always wanted to be just like her because she was the best piano player I knew. She had a lot of patience to teach me because let me tell you, I was not good. Nan was the person who led me to the Lord. When I was young, she brought me into her office and asked if I wanted to give my heart to Jesus. To be completely honest, she wouldn't have taken no for an answer. Anyways, that was the best decision I could have ever made, and I could never get over the fact how proud my Nan was, and to say that Jesus was in my heart. As a child, till I got older and could no longer sit on her lap, when we go over to her old condo for a sleepover, I always look forward to weekends when Mom and Dad would tell Nathan and I, we're going to Nanny and Poppy's. We would be so excited. Every time I would come through the door, I would run and give Nan the biggest hug and kiss ever. Oh, and same with Pop too. When I would sit on her lap, she would rub her hand on my shoulder and sing the song. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Nan always told me of how proud she was of me in each and every day. She never told me I wasn't good at something, even when I knew I totally wasn't. I will miss walking through the front door, coming home from school, and her waiting in the chair saying, how's your day, my love? What did you learn in school today? And what did you do? Or her usual question, what did you learn in Bible class? Of course, I knew I had to listen. And then she would tell a story about something she saw in the news, or something funny her friend told her that day, or even our deep conversations about worldly events in the Bible. Once in a while, particularly the times I would get in trouble, she would walk in my room and close the door and talk with me and pray with me whether I liked it or not. Nan was the person I looked up to most spiritually. I will only be half of the woman my Nan is and ever will be. One thing that Nan always wanted to do was go to Ireland. Unfortunately, she never got the chance. When I was younger, she always said she wanted to take me there to see where her family came from. Let's just say she was proud to be Irish. Before my Nan died, I promised my Nan I'll go there and I'll tell her all about it when I get to heaven. Above all of this, I want us to remember my grandma's faith. I could go on for a while, but I broke it down into what I think is the most important. She was a real discerner. She was a leader, merciful, hospitable, a real prayer warrior, and above all, a God-fearing woman. All through her years, when she endured trials and tribulations, Nan remained faithful and had her eyes set on the ending goal, where she is now for eternal life with God. I can only imagine what she is seeing up there and experiencing. As many of you know, going to one of her funerals she has performed, she always likes to use a poem. I thought I would share one as a memory of her. This poem is called As We Look Back, and I changed it a bit and used Nan in there. As we look back over time, we find ourselves wondering, did we remember to thank you enough for all you have done for us? For all the times you were by our sides to help and support us? To celebrate our successes? To understand our problems and accept our defeats? Or by teaching us by your example the value of hard work, good judgment, courage, and integrity? We wonder if we ever thanked you for the sacrifices you made to let us have the very best, and for the simple things like laughter, smiles, and times we shared. If we have forgotten to show our gratitude enough for all the things you did, we're thanking you now, and we are hoping you knew all along how much you meant to us. If flowers grow in heaven, Lord, then pick a bunch for me. Then place them in my Nan's arms and tell her they're from me. And when she turns to smile, place a kiss upon her cheek and hold her for a while. Dear Nan, we really miss you, and with us you'd always be. But since God wants you to, I'll keep your memories alive in me. This is not a goodbye. This is a see you later, or see you soon, Nan.
I love my Nan. So did everyone else. Over the last 2 days, I've heard many stories of how my Nan introduced the people and impacted their lives. I have so many memories of my nanny, but the last few years were extra special because my nanny and Poppy came to live with us. Every school day for the past 3 years, I'd barely be in the door and she would be calling me into her room asking how was my day and give me a treat, especially candy, my favorite. But dare not touch her Pepsis or share. It was very difficult watching my Nan get weaker. On Sunday, my Nan called Natalie and I into her room for a private conversation. We talked about our future, and Nanny asked us to promise to keep our hand in the hand of God. Please keep involved in the ministry. Nanny said be good to one another, and told us to take good care of Pop, and I should be good to people who are hurting because I have a tender heart. Nanny told me not to be afraid, and that she was not afraid because she had a great life and a full one. Another memory was going to our house in Perth. Natalie and I were always excited no matter the situation. We loved going to our Nanny and Poppy's place. Before my Nan died, a great friend of ours came to visit her and asked, once she gets into heaven, could she put a good word in for him? And knowing me later on, while I was talking to him, I said, once my Nan gets there, she's probably gonna lie and put in a good word just because my Nan's such a tease. Even near the end of her life, she still cracked a joke or tease. Trust me, she teased a lot, and living in the house with her was a lot of fun and a great honor. Now, one of my favorite memories was my graduation. She was very sick and was barely able to go, but she did it for me and saw me graduate. Sorry. Now the time has come, and this is my final goodbye, until I get to see her one day in heaven. As I close with a prayer my Nan taught me as a little boy that I still recite almost every night. I will miss a wonderful grandma and a friend, and most importantly, a person who gave her heart to the Lord, and right now is in the home that God made. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. God bless everybody.
Amen.
This is hard, but my mom told me I'm her strong girl, so I'm going to get through this. Today, I finally get a chance to have the last word about my mom, but who knows, she may get the last word yet. She always did. I just want to tell you a few memories about my beautiful mother. She was more than my mom. She was my best friend, my rock, my confidant, my encourager, my prayer warrior, and my partner in crime, or should I say mischief. My mom tells me that I was in a hurry to be born and that I've been in a hurry ever since. My dad had already moved to a new town called Buckens to take a new church, and Mom remained in Grand Bank to have me since she was close to her due date. Two or 3 days after I was born, my dad finally came to pick us up, and he had announced my mom to preach that Sunday. In a town called Swift Current, Newfoundland, there was a brook out by our house. And I remember my parents would lock me. They had a lock on the outside of my bedroom door. My mom says it was because she didn't want me to fall down the stairs and go in the brook. There was also, I was tied onto the clothesline as well. And I'm wondering, would that be allowed these days? Most of my childhood memories of my mom and dad's ministry are good. I remember taking piano lessons from my mom. I could play by ear, and I didn't want to practice. Mom would say, Kim, you need to practice, and you need to play by note. And my mom never took no for an answer. My mom would always have chocolate marshmallow squares in our freezer in case company showed up. And a childhood friend of mine and I came into the house one day and were craving chocolate. I said, oh, Mom, or I said, oh, Colette, I know where we can get chocolate. When company did show up and Mom went to look for her squares, I think she knew who to blame. Every summer, my mom would visit her parents in Arnprior and take my sister, Donna, and I with her. One summer after my sister had already moved to Arnprior, my dad and I went to Arnprior, and my mom stayed at home to look after the church. I had wanted my ears pierced so badly, and my mother told me it was not allowed. So my sister, being the good big sister that she was, she took me to get my ears pierced. When we were picking my mom up at the airport, I was trying to hide my ears so she wouldn't see, and she said, Kim, you may as well stop hiding your ears. I know you've already done it. And that's all there was to it. There was no discussion after that. In Pasadena, our last church in Newfoundland, my dad had come to Campville to preach for the call. And before he had announced that he had got it, my mom had the furniture sold, the piano sold, and she just knew. People have always told me I inherited my mother's twinkle in her eye, and apparently her dry sense of humor. While attending college in Peterborough, I used to bring my friends home to Campville on weekends. I warned my friends about my mother's pranks. I told them she might short-sheet their beds or dress up silly and act silly or do something. So we decided we would try and get her first. As we were walking up the stairs to surprise her, guess who was meeting us on the stairs? My mom. We had a tremendous laugh that night about her pranksters. One time, my mom and dad and I were invited to visit the Catholic priest here in Perth, Father Pat Cardy, and the sisters. After having tea, he took us around the church, and Mom said, Father Pat, I'd make a good Catholic, wouldn't I? He said, no, Grace, you wouldn't. You'd be in the confessional booth all the time, and I wouldn't have time for anybody else. And we laughed about that. Every Saturday morning for years, I would take my mom to get her hair done at Lorna's and take her or both her and my dad for breakfast because he quite often liked to come along. Every second person that would come into the restaurant knew my mom, and she would be, as I like to call it, working the room like a politician, laughing and joking and asking how they or their family members were doing. That was my mom in a nutshell. Selfless and always caring about other people right up to the very end. I used to tell my mom, because I was single, that I wanted to be cremated and bury with her and dad someday. And she said, no, Kimmy, you can't. And I would say, but Mom, why? And she'd say, because you'd always want to be going somewhere and I want to rest. I nicknamed her Miss Daisy because I was quite often driving her around to funerals or weddings or churches that she filled in at. And I enjoyed this because I got to spend so much quality time with my mom. We would laugh, we would joke, we would talk about life. I would tell her my fears, my dreams, my hopes. And it was amazing to have that time with my mom. But because I called her Miss Daisy, the name kind of stuck, and now people still refer to her that way. I took my mom to Smith Falls one day to do her visitation to seniors for our church in Smith Falls for Pastor Angel. And on the way out of town, we passed the tattoo shop. And I jokingly said, oh, Mom, let's go get matching mother-daughter tattoos. We both laughed, and upon returning home to my parents' condo, I said, Dad, guess what we decided to do? And he said, nothing would surprise me with you two. As you all know, if you knew my mom well, she loved her Pepsi, her Laura's Secret chocolates, her fudge, her banana marshmallow candy that sometimes she would share, Her billet logs, her coconut cream pie from Thruway, homemade butter tarts, and ice cream. And Mom, from now on, I will always think of you when I see any of these treats. I am so thankful to have spent that last night with my mom. My dad had gone to bed, and Mom had gone in and gotten snuggled right into his back, and I took a picture. And I'm so thankful for that, because she had told me on Saturday morning she wanted to go lying in bed beside my dad and wake up in heaven. So she got to spend that last night beside my daddy. She was a selfless person and so gracious. She never lost her patience with people. She never gave up on them. She never judged. My mom always encouraged me and believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I will always remember her loving spirit, and I'm so thankful that she is now at peace and she's not going to suffer. I promised her on Friday, we talked on Friday when she got the diagnosis just before I left her room, and she said to me, Kimmy, I know you always wanted to take me to Ireland, but I'm going someplace more beautiful now. I will love you forever, Mommy, and miss you, and look forward to the day that I get to see your beautiful face again. And I won't say goodbye, I'll say see you later.
Amen.
Mom has been called many things. She's been called a daughter, a wife, mother, sister-in-law, aunt, gifted speaker, historian, encourager, even a matchmaker, good friend, best nanny, but to me, she was Mom. She was born April the 1st, 1937, yes, April Fool's Day, and she said that was her excuse for being like she was. She was the only child of Dougal and Mary Burton of Arnprior, and we like to tease her and say she was spoiled rotten. My grandmother Mary was a very quiet woman, so I think Mom took after Pop, who was very comical and liked to chat. When she was in school, she would get in trouble for talking, but over the years, Mom would say, I got paid to talk. She loved to read and socialize, but she sure didn't like gardening. We know that as she killed any plants or flowers that we gave her. My mom once told me the story of wanting to go somewhere, but she had to plant the seed potatoes. She was in such a hurry, she just started throwing them everywhere she could, and off she went with her friends. Needless to say, she got in trouble when Pop found out. At the tender age of 7, my mom gave her heart to the Lord, and her pastor's wife was Mrs. Lorena Bryan, became a role model for her. She had many wonderful pastors who played a significant role in her life. So much that upon graduation from high school, she began working as an office clerk at Kenwood Mills in Arnprior to fund her Bible college education. Uncle Henry Murdoch was her boss there, and one time he walked into the office and she wasn't doing anything. He grabbed a pencil, stuck it in her hand, and said, make sure you look like you're working. I wonder, was she talking then too? Surprisingly, in 1957, Mom heard a men's quartet singing on the Smith Falls radio station. One of those young men was a Bible college student named Nathaniel Vaters from St. John's, Newfoundland, who was on a weekend assignment to Perth. I wonder, was she talking then too? Because she didn't know what the future was going to hold for her. The next year, 1958, Mom left home to attend Eastern Pentecostal Bible College with the intentions of becoming a social worker, definitely not a preacher. My grandmother said when she left, don't bring home a Newfie. Her only experience with Newfoundlanders was their neighbor was constantly moving back and forth from Newfoundland to Ontario, and she did not want that for her sheltered daughter. On Mom's first day in Peterborough, the Dean of Women, Mrs. Adder, who had also been Mom's pastor in Arnprior, introduced her to Nat Vaters. And the first thing he asked her, do you play the piano? Mrs. Adder was playing matchmaker, and I think Mom must have taken some lessons from her because she is known to help God put a few couples together. In those days at Bible college, you weren't allowed to be a dating couple and go on weekend assignments together. Mrs. Adder knew that Dad needed an accordion player when he went out to sing, and guess what? Mom could play the accordion. How convenient. So for well over 50 years, Mom and Dad have been playing and singing together. Dad graduated in 1959 and went to Newfoundland to pastor, while Mom continued her education while working in Peterborough Credit Jewelers and ironing shirts for extra funds. They kept in contact with letters and telephone calls. While Mom was busy at college, being involved in Bible clubs, doing services at Curve Lake and Indian Reservation, helping with a new church in Onimi, playing piano at Madoc Pentecostal Church, Dad was lonely being the pastor of a tiny church in Little Heartsease, Newfoundland. One day, Mom got a letter in the mail from Dad, and there was an engagement ring inside. How romantic. On September the 17th, 1960, Mom and Dad were married in Glad Tidings Church in Arnprior. She stepped out of her comfort zone, boarded a train for Newfoundland, and for the next 23 years, she and Dad worked as a team, pastoring the churches all over the island. Every Sunday, they'd take turns preaching either in the morning or at night, and Dad would lead the singing with Mom playing the piano. In the early days of their ministry, their salary was only $25 a week. 3 years later, I was born, and guess what Dad was doing? Off doing visitation. Story of their lives. She didn't even have a second name picked out for me, so she called me after the English nurse, Lynn. 4 years later, my sister Kim arrived, and we got used to living in parsonages that were attached to the back of the church, basements of church, or even old schools. Mom was very involved in the community that she lived in. To supplement their income, she taught piano lessons, as well as performing her other pastoral duties. She taught adult Sunday school, leading missionettes for girls, WM for ladies, home and hospital visitation, palliative care when necessary, participating in school assemblies, writing articles for local newspapers, and starting up ladies' Bible study groups. In December 1983, Mom and Dad left Newfoundland to pastor in Kemptville. So from January 1st, 1984 to July 87, and then they came to Glad Tidings here in Perth. Dad resigned in 1993, and Mom was then hired by the County of Lanark to be a chaplain for 2 nursing homes, Lanark Lodge and Fairview Manor in Elmont. She worked there for 8 years until she retired at the age of 65. That retirement didn't last long, because then Blair and Son Funeral Home called and gave her an on-call position as chaplain. Right up until last month, Mom was still continuing to preach and performing weddings and funerals. In summary, my mother was no fool. She planted great seed. And as a matter of fact, just last month, Mom received a thank you card with a photo of the Grace Study Group that she started in Clarenville over 35 years ago, and it is still thriving today. What a testimony. In the end, Mom was not just a social worker or a preacher. She became very much more to many people. This has been shown by the many phone calls, messages, emails, even to the meals delivered to our home, the wake for the last 2 days. It was just overwhelming for all of us as a family, but just showed how much an impact my mother made. She didn't listen to her mother, because she ended up marrying a Newfie. And because of her gifts, she moved to Newfoundland, where both her and Dad played, prayed, preached, and sang. The problem with Mom? She never learned the word no. This caused our home to be open to all. Both myself and Kim, we've had to sleep on floors, lawn chairs, even in bathtubs, because my parents had an open door policy. It must not be understated that the ministry was theirs, Mom and Dad's. In the later years, while Mom took the lead role, Dad was her shoulder and her strength. He too spent countless hours aiding in the great team effort called the Ministry of Grace Vaters. My father loved hearing people talk about the great work of his Gracie. My mother had no fear of death. She was looking forward to meeting her Master and Lord first. Then her family and friends thereafter, including the seeds she planted over time, and I'm sure some are here today because of that. She loved planning funerals, and so much that last Friday she planned every detail of this service today and wanted to have the last word. Typical Grace. Monday passed, Mom said her goodbyes, surrounded by the family she loved in a place that became her best earthly home. And for many funerals, Mom always said the person's name for each letter, and she would list a quality of that person, and now I want to do the same. Grace. Gee, she was gracious. She was gifted, and she was God-fearing. She was reliable. She was attentive, and she was amazing. She was caring, she was compassionate, and she was courageous. But best of all, she was an encourager, and she had an eternal perspective. The final hours were amazing grace. She sang, she prepared her final speech, and then ever so quietly said, "I've got to go now. I can't stay. I'm being called home. Sorry, I can't stay no longer. I must go, but no, I love you all." While there's a void in all our hearts today, and even this world today, our loss is heaven's gain. Heaven has gained a beautiful gem.
Amen. Amen, Donna. Amen.
The family tributes are wonderful, and everybody that's here loves each one of you, but they all spoke of her patience. I never got to see that. You worked a funeral with Pastor Grace, you worked. I need you over here, I need you there, Pastor Angel. Come on, get moving here. Come on, we gotta get this on the road. Okay, we're all set. So anyway, that's the Pastor Grace I knew. This song is called Sheltered in the Arms of God, again chosen by Her Highness, Pastor Grace. I feel the touch of hands so kind and tender. They're leading me in paths that I must trod. I have no fear when Jesus walks beside me, for I'm sheltered in the arms of God. So let the storms rage high, the dark clouds rise, they won't worry me, for I'm sheltered safe within the arms of God. He walks with me, and naught of earth shall harm me, for I'm sheltered in the arms of God. Soon I shall hear the call from heaven's portals. Come home, my child, it's the last mile you must trod. I'll fall asleep and wake in God's new heaven, sheltered safe within the arms of God. Sing with me if you know it. Let the storms rage high, the dark clouds rise, they won't worry me, for I'm sheltered safe within the arms of God. He walks with me, and naught of earth shall harm me, for I'm sheltered in the arms of God. Love you, Gracie.